Good morning. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, number 1008, when our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place. Is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place. There is darkness inside. Other's ways. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place. Please remain standing as we light our chalice. I would like to invite Jean Wallace to light our chalice this morning as we recite our covenant. We covenant to embrace one another in community, to welcome all with an open heart and generous spirit, seek to understand others with grace and patience, speak our truths bravely and respectfully, and create a space for all to be heard, acknowledged, and valued. So now's the time for you to take a moment to greet folks that are seated near you, and I want to apologize for starting a little early before the slides were ready.
It's become quite the routine.
Pardon me?
The greeting has become quite a bigger routine.
I know. Oh, I forgot my earrings, but I remembered my hearing aids, so at least that's good.
You had the thing you really needed.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. All right, so are they your kids or a kid and a spouse?
Two kids, they're partners in common, which is understandable.
And Patty and your mother and Sean?
And Sean's wife.
Oh. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you braved the weather. We usually say that in January or February, but thank you for coming this morning to our service of worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County. I extend a special welcome to anyone who's attending for the first time this morning. We're so glad you're here. You belong. In this beloved community, universal love embraces our rich, rainbow-hued diversity and calls us to work together for compassion, justice, and transformation within our community and our wider world. Once again, good morning. My name is Ruth Hendry, and I'm serving as your worship associate this morning, along with our speaker, Brian O'Leary, Gabby Sachs, our musician, and Bob Rowland, our director of music. I have had the opportunity to work with Brian this year on Soul Matters, and it is a privilege and a joy. Brian has become an active member of our congregation and was formerly a member of the Unitarian Society of Germantown, where he led the worship committee and was a worship associate, among other things. The flowers this morning in the sanctuary are provided by Melissa Nedza, Dennis Lloyd, and their son, Finn. If you're interested in learning about membership in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County, or just a little bit more about Unitarian Universalism, as the newcomer ambassador, I will be available after the service at the back of the sanctuary by Reverend Ed's office. If you want to go to, our tea and iced tea and lemonade after service, feel free to do that, and you're welcome to come back. Now, as we settle into worship, let us experience the words of Lindsay Bates. Let us open our minds to the challenge of reason. Open our hearts to the healing of love. Open our lives to the calling of conscience. Open our souls to the comfort of joy. Astonished by the miracle of life, grateful for the gift of fellowship, confident in the power of living faith, we are here gathered. Come, let us worship together. Please remain seated as we sing our centering song, May I Be Filled with Loving Kindness. It's number 1009 in your teal hymnal if you'd like to read along, but the words are on the screen. Every week, we bring not just our physical presence to the sanctuary, but those events or concerns that we carry in our hearts. Maybe it's the joy of writing postcards to infrequent voters in North Carolina, or making a good pass in soccer, or just enjoying a beautiful day. Or perhaps it's the sorrow about worrying about a family member who's going through cancer treatment, or the violence in Gaza, Israel, Haiti, or closer to home in Philadelphia or Chester. This is a time in our service where we invite you to acknowledge a joy or sorrow you are carrying in your heart by dropping a stone in the bowl of water. Please come forward now as you are moved, lining up along the side aisle and then returning to your seat through the center aisle. And if you're joining us online, please feel free to type your joy or sorrow in the chat window. I will drop the last two stones, one for the joys and sorrows of those who are joining us online, and one for the joys and sorrows that we keep in our hearts and we are not yet ready to be expressed. I don't know about you, but I found it difficult to balance joy and sorrow in this life this past week. Maybe you did too. This prayer by the Lakota people helped me find some peace. Wankantanka, great mystery. Teach me how to trust my heart, my mind, my intuition, my inner knowing, the senses of my body, the blessings of my spirit. Teach me to trust these things so I may enter into sacred space and love beyond my fear, and thus walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun. Please remain seated as we sing Spirit of Life.
Servants of compassion,
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Great to be here. I'm going to do a reading. It's an online excerpt from Psychology Today. It'll give a little bit of the scientific, not really scientific, but more rational reasons to trust your heart. 3 Reasons Why You Have to Trust Your Heart by Susanna Newsonen. Whatever you believe, here are 3 reasons why you should listen to your intuition. 1, your intuition is shaped by your past experiences and the existing knowledge that you gain from them. The more experienced you are in the domain you're deciding on, the more accurately your intuition can offer you the most optimal decision. Although it can be useful to seek counsel from others, remind yourself that they don't necessarily know what's best for you. Take their advice into consideration if they're more experienced than you are. In the end, your heart knows best. You lived your life and fully experienced it, making you the best person to decide what to do next. When it comes to life decisions that involve a lot of feeling and heart, like relationships, only you know what's in your heart. Trust that you have all the knowledge and experience you need to make the decision that's right for you. 2, your intuition is encoded in your brain like a web of fact and feeling. This is why intuition is so much more powerful than taking advice from someone else. Your intuition connects your body, mind, and spirit, and how these 3 elements have digested everything from your past. This web of facts and feelings makes you feel expansive, excited, and nervous about a new challenge if it's right. On the contrary, you will feel deflated, lethargic, and terrified if it's wrong. 3, your intuition connects you with all the nerve cells in your body. The butterflies you feel in your tummy, sometimes referred to as a gut feeling, before an important decision are a result of feeling the millions of nerve cells in there. The subconscious part of your brain sends signals to the nerves in the tummy to feel that way. What better way to make a decision than to listen to your full being and not only your mind? The key to mastering what I consider the sacred gift of intuition is learning to listen to it. The more attention you give it, the more powerful and accurate it will be.
Now is the time in our service where we will gratefully receive your offering, either through your mobile phone with the number on the screen, or you can place your offering in the boxes by the back door of the sanctuary, or the wall at the back of the sanctuary. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May we say yes to all that love requires of us. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation.
I walk a crooked road
I'll adjust that mic again. Like many Unitarian Universalists, I like to think of myself as a logical and rational person who calmly and dispassionately tackles problems, breaking them down into understandable segments and determining a viable solution. Of course, this is far from the reality of my or anyone else's life, except for fictional characters like Spock from Star Trek. But it does provide a basic framework for how I and many others approach key elements of life. This morning, I'd like to talk about my theological journey that involved both my heart and my mind, and then highlight a few key ways we can trust our hearts. Both Unitarianism and Universalism grew out of a rational and empirical approach that looked at the Bible with fresh, open-eyed analysis and challenged many conventional beliefs, like the Trinity or predestination. And this willingness to logically challenge given beliefs is baked in our current principle number 4. UU support a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. There's almost an expectation in the Unitarian Universalist Church that you will search for truth and that this truth is based on rational analysis. In my youth, I didn't look very hard at my religious upbringing as a member of the United Church of Christ, one of the most theologically liberal of the various Protestant denominations. This was in the 1970s when there were new fundamentalist Christian movements gaining traction nationwide, and I soon heard about alternative interpretations of the Bible. A very conservative friend of mine, both politically and theologically, filled me in on what true Christians really believed. And if you believed in Jesus, you were going to heaven. Otherwise, it was off to hell with you. But I protested, being at least partially logical and analytical. What about all those people who just grew up in other faiths, Hindus or Muslims or Buddhists? What about people who never heard of Jesus? Well, it really was a shame, but it was off to hell for them. Certainly, this made absolutely no sense to my 16-year-old brain, nor does it to my 63-year one, and it helped convince me that if this was what true Christians believed, it wasn't for me. And yet my heart said maybe there is something more, something there to believe. Maybe this isn't all there is. But without a doubt, there's a problem of evil, which theologians have wrestled with for millennia. How, my mind said, can there be a loving, all-powerful God with so much evil in the world? There are a variety of answers to this question, but at the time, I more or less settled on a vague deist approach of a clockwork God, got things going, and periodically intervened, but was pretty much uninvolved, if there were a God at all. And yet, my heart said, maybe there's something more, something stronger to believe. Maybe this isn't all there is. Going through school and being an avid reader, you can't miss evolution or the size and age of the universe. How does this jive with a God who created the world, the clockwork God concept? Maybe there simply wasn't a God, and humans simply manufactured the idea of God to explain things they didn't understand. And yet my heart kept saying there was something more. There was something more connecting all of us, a power we don't fully understand or comprehend. I'm not an overly introspective person, so I didn't spend too much time on these questions and simply moved on with my life, eventually wandering back to liberal Protestantism in my early 30s, and then recognizing I didn't believe all those tenets, I ended up a Unitarian Universalist in my mid-30s. So at this stage, I didn't have any concrete, clear-cut beliefs, but that was okay at the time. However, being a rational person, once I focused on this, actually because of mentoring a teenager who was preparing a belief statement, I figured I should create a logical, theological framework that worked for me. I already knew that, despite my mind often telling me otherwise, that I believed in God in some way, shape, or form. My heart was telling me this. Was there a theological system I could adopt that jived with my heart's faith in the existence of a God, however you define God? I eventually settled on process theology, what I think works well for many Unitarian Universalists, especially those who are theists. But I think it can also work for agnostics and atheists, if you substitute alternative words for God, such as love. Here are a few key points of process theology. We're all interrelated, connected, and affected by each other and everything else. So is God, who creates with the world. God is in everything, but also transcendent and beyond everything. God is persuasive, not coercive, offering possibilities of achieving the good. God does not control our actions. Instead, God prompts us to be our best selves. Over a very long time, the world and universe respond to God's call, yearning, evolving, and changing, slowly becoming both more complex and more orderly. This basic process theology structure works for me. Do I know it is absolutely the right structure? The answer, absolutely not. But how did I get to the point of at least creating a theological framework for myself that I was comfortable with? And it wasn't just by applying my brain and going through a rigorous assessment, but it was also involved back and forth over time, responding to my heart and the subtle call I heard there. I believe this process can work for most UUs, and each of us will most likely land in a different place, whether we are theists, agnostics, or atheists. As Unitarian Universalists, it's important to trust both our rational minds and our more intuitive, instinctual, and emotional hearts. We need both working hand in hand. And so here are a few thoughts on strengthening our softer side. I'll start with love. Like the new UU JETPIG values that surround the word love, we should continue to embrace love as a key guiding principle of who we are as UUs in a congregation. Here's a brief excerpt from a book written by John Cobb, the leading proponent of process theology over the past 60 years. He says, "The experience of being loved by others, including God, goes far beyond simply believing that others love us. It's an actual experience of that love. Most of us take for granted a basic level of loving support from others. In the retirement community in which I live, we all enjoy all the time the diffuse love of one another. It adds greatly to the quality of our life together. There is a good deal of this in families and congregations, except in the most dysfunctional cases. The feelings of each of us enter into the feelings of the others. We are members one of another. When others love us, we're able to love ourselves, and we are also able to love others. In my community, it happens again and again that when someone is ill or loses their spouse or experiences some other tragedy, the diffuse love takes on a sharp focus, and acts of kindness, expressions of concern, and intercessory prayer, all directed to that person, multiply. The person in question feels the love of the community in a new and dramatic way. Once one understands the power of love, one understands also the stupidity and evil of the many blocks we put in the way of its dominance in our feelings, its expression, and its reception. We understand more fully the high calling of our congregations as places of mutual love and caring, and how that increases their ability to minister to the world. I believe our congregation is excellent at embracing love as a defining characteristic of who we are, and can continue building on this strong foundation of love by trusting our hearts. Next, I'll touch on hope. Another emotion that our rational minds too frequently reject, albeit ably helped by our instincts, which seem to look for dangers and problems everywhere. Once you look for danger and risk, it's easy to find and become all-consuming, leading to complete collapse in hope, even nihilism. Yet hope is central to a well-lived, forward-looking life. Problems abound, for sure, whether it's personal or societal, but improvement does occur. On a societal level, would you really want to go back to the 1970s before significant progress was made on women, racial and ethnic minority, or LGBTQ rights? As Reinhold Niebuhr noted, nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime. Therefore, we are saved by hope. It seems the current world conditions, the state of our politics, our hope has become trampled down, which is always the goal of tyrants. Instead, we must trust our hearts and be saved by hope, bending the world towards justice, expanding our embrace of hope and the power to slowly change our own lives and our society towards love. Finally, I'd like to mention awe and wonder. These emotions coming from our heart are a response to the transcending power of the world. There are times when this transcending power shouts to you from the top of the mountain, when there's an awe-inspiring sunset, transformative music, or breathtaking art. You feel connected to more than just your own personal space. But there are other smaller moments that inspire quieter wondering, like earlier this week when I was biking on a canal path and saw very close a large great blue heron on a log with two deer directly behind it in the water, sharing a moment together. Of course, I ruined the moment, shouting out to my wife that, hey, take a look at this, and that was the end of that, but it was a transcendent moment. If we look around slowly and thoughtfully, we connect with the awe and wonder of life, watching a bee move from flower to flower, collecting pollen, thinking about a smartphone and marveling at the ingenuity of its creators, staring at a leaf and for the first time really seeing its intricate beauty, enjoying a well-crafted meal transformed from everyday ingredients into a unique, delicious dish, having a conversation with a loved one. Trust your heart in these moments. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. When it breaks through our intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through our will, it is virtue. When it flows through our affections, it is love. Allow your hearts to break through. Trust your hearts in finding your place in the world. Be guided by love, hope, and awe. Amen.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our closing hymn, Answering the Call of Love, number 1014. Please remain standing as we will say our benediction. I want to thank Brian for your reflection this morning, love, hope, and awe. I want to thank Gabby for her music and Bob for the gift of his music as well. I want to thank our AV team and all those who were serving on our hospitality team this morning. And we will be serving lemonade and iced tea in Fellowship Hall and I hope all of you will join us. As Brian extinguishes our chalice, please join me in reciting our benediction. For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come here embracing life, may life return your affection.
And for those who come
seek
to
the
seek the path,
may await
may
be
await
found and the courage to take it
step by step.
Blessed
Ashe.
be.